जीवन की आपाधापी में जीवन की आपाधापी में कब वक्त मिला कुछ देर कहीं पर बैठ जरा ये सोच सकूं कि जो किया कहा माना उसमें क्या बुरा और क्या भला। जीवन की इस फास्ट पेस्ड सो टू से जिंदगी में हम सभी लोग इतने ज्यादा उलझ चुके हैं कि जो इम्पोर्टेंट चीजें हैं लाइफ में, जो हम कह रहे हैं, मान रहे हैं, समझ रहे हैं अपने बारे में, अपने देश के बारे में, अपने समाज के बारे में, उसको हम आराम से बैठ करके सोच नहीं पा रहे हैं, एनालाइज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, क्रिटिकली रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं कर पा रहे। तो इस प्रॉब्लम को दूर करने के लिए मैंने और मेरा नाम अनुपम है और मेरे दोस्त ईशान ने, हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना एक ऐसा इनिशिएटिव चलाया जाए जिसमें हम लोगों को मोटिवेट करें क्रिटिकली रिफ्लेक्ट करने के लिए, क्रिटिकली सोचने के लिए, जो भी चीजें हो रही हैं हमारे समाज में उनके बारे में। तो इसीलिए हम आपके सामने हमारी नई इनिशिएटिव, इसका नाम है मीमांसा। मीमांसा आता है हिंदू फिलॉसफी के 6 मेजर फिलोसफिकल ट्रेडिशंस में से एक है मीमांसा, जिसका मतलब ही होता है क्रिटिकली रिफ्लेक्ट करना, क्रिटिकली इन्वेस्टिगेट करना चीजों।
और इंडिया के बारे में काफी फॉरेन कमेंटेटर्स, एकेडमिशियंस, न्यूज मीडिया ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में काफी कुछ चीजें बोली जाती है, कही जाती है। मोस्ट ऑफ इट इज आल्सो ignorant. A lot of commentary can also be sinister. So our idea was to put forward a civilizational point of view of India, how Indians look at India, and to do that and to use it to create awareness about India, plus also to fight a lot of these sinister elements outside. For example, recently there was this controversy regarding a US academician called Audrey Truskay, and she had said some really uncharitable things about Bhagwan Ram, right, and Ramayana as such. So what we want to do through this initiative is to ensure that our voice is being heard in the global platform.
हाँ, कि इंडिया का अपना जो एक पर्सपेक्टिव है, जो एक ओपिनियन है, वो क्लियरली आर्टिकुलेट हो पाए। क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि ईशान, यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑड्रे टुस्के जैसे लोग जो कि बाहर में ऐसी चीजें, वो तो फिर भी जस्टिफाइड है कहीं ना कहीं, क्योंकि वो बाहर के लोग हैं, उन्हें शायद हमारी सिविलाइजेशन, हमारी सभ्यता, हमारी सोसाइटी के बारे में उतना नहीं पता। बट बुरी चीज तो ये है कि हमारे देश में ही हमारे खुद के लोग जो हैं उनको भी नहीं पता है, वो भी हमारे जो ट्रेडिशंस हैं, जो वैल्यू सिस्टम्स हैं, जो इतिहास हैं, उनको भूलते जा रहे हैं। तो अब तुमने बात छेड़ी दी है इतिहासों की, तो क्यों ना हम आज बात कर लें महाभारत के बारे में। तो मेरे जो फ्रेंड सर्कल भी हैं और आसपास के जो भी लोग हैं, सबसे बड़ा जो डाउट उनके दिमाग में जो रहता है वो ये है कि इज महाभारत अ मिथ और अ रियलिटी।
तो इसमें मतलब थोड़ा समझने की चीज है। A lot of people don't understand that Hindu literature is also properly, it can also be properly segmented in different between different types. So broadly speaking, you can divide like Hindu texts into two parts. One is the Smriti text and another is like the Shruti text. ठीक है? तो श्रुति का मतलब ही होता है that which is heard. तो Shrutis were the texts which were like revealed to the rishis. तो श्रुति का जैसे एग्जाम्पल हो गया वेदास. So these were the texts which were revealed to them. Okay. And the other part is Smriti. तो स्मृति का मतलब होता है memory, what you remember. So the Smriti texts are one which are written by people through their own memories of things. तो इसमें एग्जाम्पल जैसे बहुत फेमस एग्जाम्पल है which a lot of leftists rally around, वो हो गया मनुस्मृति. But there are other स्मृतिज as well, जैसे याज्ञवल्क्य स्मृति. और जो इसमें सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट टू जो बड़े सेगमेंट्स हैं, जो वेल नोन भी है काफी, वो हो गया इतिहासा एंड पुराण. तो इतिहासा जो होता है, इतिहासा, so the idea of इतिहासा is that this is how it happened exactly. ठीक है, उसका लिटरल मीनिंग ये होता है कि this is how it happened in reality. और इतिहासा टेक्स्ट जो है हिंदू माइथोलॉजी में, there are two इतिहासा टेक्स्ट. One is Ramayana, another is Mahabharata. तो according to Hindu cultural memory, Mahabharata is a part of our history actually. And the idea is that it was a part of our historical memory and we wrote it down over a period of time.
Correct. I think Mahabharata was written down over a period of 1,000 years. I think from 500 BC, somewhere around 500 AD. So it took a long journey, to actually write this piece of history down. But I would just like to add on what you said, Ishan. When you read both Ramayana and Mahabharata, the chapters in Ramayana are called as Khand, right? Yeah, Kand. Sundar Kand, right? And the chapters in Mahabharata are called as Parv, Shanti Parv, for example. So when you look at the Sanskrit translations of these words, these actually mean branches of a tree. Khand or Kand is a branch which is more rigid, it's more heavy. So it is not something that can be shaken easily. Parv, on the other hand, is a very shakeable or loosely held branch of a tree. So in that sense, this also tells you about the nature of these two texts. For example, if you look at Ramayana, the Sanskrit version obviously is there, one by Valmiki, then there is a Tamil version by Kamban, which is popularly read in the South, and there is another Sanskrit version as well, right? So this shows that anyone who had a problem with the writings of Valmiki sort of wrote his own version. Even in Sanskrit, there's a different version. But this sort of, collaboration is not, this sort of individuality is not seen in Mahabharata, wherein different authors sort of contributed on the Mahabharata text over the years. So hence, there are different interpretations, there are different viewpoints that have been added, so on, in the course of that 1,000 years. Right? So that is one of the differences between the two itihasas that we are talking about. So to summarize, Mahabharata is more loosely associated with the actual events probably, and Ramayana is more accurately associated with the events. But the essence of both the stories is retained. That is the important point that we need to understand, right? There might be here and there tweaks in one event or one character, but the essence of the story, the morality behind it, the rationality behind it, and the values behind it sort of remains the same, right? So in the modern context, if you look at, because there were different versions of Mahabharata, Mahabharata originally has around 1 lakh verses, 1 lakh shlokas. Now, because there are different versions of Mahabharata floating around different regions, what the Bhandarkar Oriental research, I think in the before independence started doing 1940s, I think. Yeah. So what it started doing was to find out a critical edition of Mahabharata. What do I mean by critical edition of the Mahabharata? Critical edition is something that what these people did, they brought out all the versions of Mahabharata together and they found out कि कौन सा ऐसा श्लोक है, कौन सी ऐसी verses है जो कि बहुत ज्यादा versions of Mahabharata में है. तो उसकी likelihood और उसकी probability to exist in the original version बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाती है. तो ऐसे करके उन लोगों ने different verses और different श्लोकास को identify किया. तो एक critical edition भंडारकर ओरिएंटल रिसर्च ने 50 years लगाए उनको और फिर वो publish किया, and that has around 75,000 to 80,000 verses. फिर इसको I think this is sort of the unabridged version, right? कि छोटा करके नहीं किया. So India में unabridged versions I think 3 लोगों ने किए हैं. One is Manman Datta, one is Ganguly, and the most recent one is probably by Vivek Devroy, who has translated this critical edition by the Bhandarkar research. उसको उन्होंने translate किया in his magnum opus of 10 volumes of books.
And the great thing about Vivek Devroy is he's very talented. He's currently in the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. He's heading that. He's an economist by training, actually. Yeah. And he's on the war path of translating every piece of literature out there. He's translating Puranas, Ramayana. Usne already kar diya. He's doing Mahabharata. He has done Mahabharata 10 part. It is a wonderful book. Both of us have read it. So we simply loved it.
And we would suggest everyone who is watching this, please go and read this version or this English version of the critical edition of the Mahabharata by Vivek Devaraj. It's a wonderful, wonderful read.
Yeah, and there are a lot of these Mahabharatas which are floating around in the market. There is this marketing genius guy called Devdutt Patnaik, and he has his own version. So if you are lazy, so a lot of people, simply go with the first thing that they see on the shelf, right? So Devdutt Patnaik is very popular, but he is not a Sanskritist by training. He does not understand Sanskrit.
Correct.
And because of that, there are a lot of exactly. And because of that, a lot of wrong information, a lot of other kind of motivations do creep in when you try to translate or when you try to tell a story. So as someone who would want to be informed, these are the kind of things that should be avoided in general. An abridged version does not, actually capture the kind of nuances that there are in a bigger story, right?
My only point here, Ishan, is ki, abridged versions also serve a purpose because they sort of open the doors to the wonderful things, wonderful insights that are there in Mahabharata. If someone is not able to read the voluminous versions of Vivek Devaraj, they can read the abridged version, say by Rajaji's. It's a good version, right? But the eventual goal has to be to read the unabridged version of the Mahabharata to get the complete understanding, right?
Exactly.
So on this note, I would want to ask, because say it was written down over a period of 1,000 years. So how is Mahabharata is attributed to one person, so to say, Ved Vyas?
So a lot of people get this wrong, right? Ved Vyas is a title actually. Vyasa ka matlab hota hai basically to divide, to compartmentalize, to put things in different boxes actually. So Ved Vyasa is a title, and the person who is attributed to having written Mahabharata is the 28th Ved Vyasa, and his actual name is Krishna Dvaipayan. So Krishna because he was dark when he was born, and Dvaipayan because he was born on an island. So in that way, Mahabharata is like you said before, right? Mahabharata is a very dynamic document. You can see the changes in terms of language and in terms of the societal values over time. There is this very interesting story which a lot of people generally don't know about a character called Shvetketu in Mahabharata, and he was a son of sage called Sage Udalka, and
Udalak.
Udalak, Udalak. And so the story goes that Shvetketu was standing outside of his house, and he saw every day there is this handsome guy who comes, or his mother, she goes with that guy, and his father is just sitting there ignoring that such a thing is even happening. Okay. So he just goes to his father, and वो जाके पूछता है कि what are you doing यार, just stop. How can you allow your wife to go out with another guy, right? But sage, the wise sage, he says that she is going out there to pleasure herself, and then she'll come back. Okay. So society was such at that time, that the husband was fine with his wife having affair with another person if it satisfies her, right? But after this, you see that Shvetketu got on this mission. I want to reintroduce faithfulness in marriage, and that is how it is said that the aspect of being faithful to your wife, that element came over time.
Yeah, and I think I also look a lot of other events in Mahabharata in the same light. As in, for example, because this happens at the start of the Mahabharata, this shows कि महाभारत के शुरू में जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स ऑफ मोरालिटी और सोसाइटल वैल्यूज जो थी उसके नोशंस अलग थे. बाद में धीरे धीरे जैसे श्वेतकेतु ने फेथफुलनेस को इंट्रोड्यूस करने की कोशिश की, तो ऐसे मोरालिटी जो है धीरे धीरे चेंज हुई. तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि पॉलीगेमी तो काफी जगह दिखती है हमें इन महाभारत. साथ ही साथ पॉलीएमरी भी सोसाइटी में उतनी ही प्रिवलेंट रही होगी. दैट इज माय बिलीफ. Because when you look at the incidents of Draupadi marrying the 5 Pandavas, I think that actually is an incident of polyamory. But क्योंकि 1000 साल के पीछे इवॉल्व हुआ, तो बाद के जो राइटर्स उनको लगा यार ये तो गलत हो गया, क्योंकि ये तो हमारी करंट मोरालिटी को तो सब्सक्राइब नहीं कर रहा, तो इसको कैसे सॉल्व किया? तो उनको शायद आइडिया आया होगा कि माँ से कुछ रिलेट कर देते हैं कि कुंती के पास जाते हैं और कुंती बोलती हैं कि भाई जो भी लाए हो अर्जुन अपने 5 भाइयों में बांट लो। तो माँ जैसी फिगर जो कि इंडियन सोसाइटी में बहुत ज्यादा वैल्यूड है, माँ ने कह दिया तो ठीक है, हर गलत चीज भी सही हो सकती है। तो इसलिए आई थिंक द्रौपदी के वो पॉलीएमरी को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए उस स्टोरी को शायद इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया होगा, वो भी बाद में।
मतलब if you look at it, there are a lot of things that were happening in the past in India, जो कि even the contemporary society won't accept, and which is something that a lot of people would consider woke. तो जैसे this entire thing that recently happened about adultery being struck down by the law against adultery, section 497, I guess, yeah, which was struck down by the Supreme Court. तो उसके पीछे का जो फाउंडेशन थी, उसके पीछे की जो फिलॉसफी थी, दैट कम्स फ्रॉम अ विक्टोरियन माइंडसेट, जहां पे women, they are the property of a man. तो if husband if husband sees that his wife is having an affair with another man, then he can do a case against that person, because his wife is his chattel, his property. Okay. So and there is an imbalance in this law as well, right? Women, if a wife sees that her husband is having an affair with another woman, she cannot do anything about it. So it was it was a very biased kind of a law, but that comes from the kind of Western or a Victorian kind of a thought where women are the property of men. And through Draupadi's example, we can see that it was probably not like that in a structure like India of the past.
Correct.
And so yeah, there is this other thing which I come across a lot, and there was this incident which happened a few years back in Russia, जहाँ पर there was this movement कि Mahabharata as a text and as a literature वो war को promote करता है, violence को promote करता है, और that is why there was this movement to ban it. Even there was this movement to ban Bhagavad Gita over there. So what do you think about that? कि is Mahabharata only about war and violence?
In one or two words, absolutely not. Yeah, bilkul nahi. I think Mahabharata is a very, very complex document. It talks about various aspects of morality to even simple prescriptions in day-to-day life, which normal human being can use. For example, one of my favorite shlokas that is there is about anger, krodh. It goes like this: Krodhad bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibhrama, smriti brahmasat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranayasya. So it talks about anger and how anger should be controlled, because if it is not controlled, it will lead to the eventual demise of the individual itself in a lot of metaphorical ways. So these prescriptions are something which any normal individual can subscribe to. वो भी सीख सकता है यार, वो भी कर सकता है.
And there is this other thing, अगर हम text के बारे में, if we just go in deep into the text itself, तो अगर आप देखोगे, Krishna till the very end he tried to save the war from happening. Because at the end of the day, Mahabharata is centered around a war, a great war that happened between two sides. And Krishna, if you look at his role, he was not provoking a war. He's not a warmonger. He's trying to save the war. अगर आप देखोगे, दिनकर ने काफी अच्छा लिखा है इसके ऊपर कि मैत्री की राह बताने को, सबको सुमार्ग पर लाने को, भीषण विध्वंस बचाने को, भगवान हस्तिनापुर आए, पांडव का संदेशा लाए. तो न्याय अगर तो आधा तो, पर इसमें भी कोई बाधा हो तो दे दो, केवल 5 ग्राम रखो अपनी धरती का, हम वही खुशी से खाएंगे, परिजन पर हंसी न उठाएंगे. तो वो पॉइंट है कि मतलब महाभारत वॉर में, if you look at it, God himself, the supreme personality of God, Krishna himself, tried to save the war from happening, but it did happen. So it is about the fact that there are some things that are out of your control, and कुछ चीजें eventually हो जाती even after you try a lot. So people should see it from that perspective as well.
Correct. And if you look at the modern interpretations of Mahabharata, I think it was Derrida who famously said that every understanding is a misunderstanding, right? So he, here we can use Derrida to comment upon the modern versions of the Mahabharata, one was the Palace of Wheels, probably, which is not a very good version to comment about.
Chitra Banerjee. Yeah.
So, but every modern interpreter of Mahabharata would try to understand the Mahabharata in the present circumstances, present social conditions. एंड इसीलिए इफ यू लुक एट महाभारता, उसकी जो मॉडर्न इंटरप्रिटेशंस, कई बार लोग यहाँ पे कास्टिज्म का एंगल निकाल लेते हैं और वुमेन की कंडीशंस को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए वो मतलब बताते हैं कि वुमेन कंडीशन क्योंकि आज ऐसी हैं तो पहले वो वैसी ही रही होंगी। वो रिडक्शनिस्ट है ना, उनके लिए इजी लगता है कि यार ठीक है उस समय भी वैसा ही हुआ होगा, वो पेट्रियार्की जो है वहीं से चली तो आ रही है, वही तो है, वही कास्टिज्म है, वही चला आ रहा है। एकलव्य की स्टोरी आई थिंक जिस बिग एग्जांपल, निषाद वाला रोल की, वो निषाद कम्युनिटी था इसलिए द्रोणाचार्य ने उसको नहीं सिखाया और उसका अंगूठा
हाँ। तो मतलब looking at the story of Eklavya from a casteist angle, तो casteism वाला, caste discrimination वाले point of view से it is very wrong actually. What people don't understand is उस time पे societies ऐसी होती थी कि जो अलग-अलग tribes हैं, within that tribe there used to be a lot of hierarchy, ठीक है? एक tribe के अंदर hierarchy होती, there are kings among Nishads as well, ठीक है? So the forefathers of Eklavya, so they were kings of Nishadas, right? So एक point तो वो है. And there is this other side about the Eklavya story. A lot of people don't know who killed Eklavya. आपको पता है कि एकलव्य को किसने मारा था? Do you know?
I think Krishna.
Any idea?
Krishna.
Yeah, exactly. तो लोगों को ये नहीं पता कि मतलब एकलव्य was killed by Krishna. And the story goes कि actually एकलव्य के जो father थे, his father was actually a general in Jarasandh's army. तो कॉन्टेक्स्ट यह है कि बेसिकली जरासंध इज दिस वेरी सेंट्रल कैरेक्टर इन कृष्णा स्टोरी. जरासंध इज द रूलर ऑफ मगधा एंड वो रिपीटेडली अटैक कर रहा है यादवास की किंगडम पे, दैट इज इन मथुरा. एंड जो बार बार जब अटैक हो रहा है उनके ऊपर, एंड कृष्णा आल्सो लीव्स द बैटलफील्ड एंड दैट इज हाउ ही इज नोन एज रणछोड़ दास. तो बेसिकली या एग्जैक्टली, तो उस सेंस में तो जो जरासंध का जो मेन जनरल था, ही वाज फादर ऑफ एकलव्य. तो ये जो कास्ट वाला जो एंगल आता है, that Eklavya was probably a poor guy who was not given the training by Dronacharya because of his low birth, is very wrong actually. That entire perspective is wrong.
Yeah, I think उसको देखने का दूसरा तरीका होना चाहिए, and this is what is the central theme in all the itihasas that we see, is the conflict of dharma, right? क्योंकि द्रोणाचार्य वाली जो स्टोरी है कि द्रोणाचार्य और अर्जुन और शायद सारे पांडव नदी में जाते हैं और एक मगरमच्छ जो है द्रोणाचार्य का पैर पकड़ लेता है और अर्जुन जो है उसको बचा लेता है द्रोणाचार्य को. तो द्रोणाचार्य तब वरदान देते हैं अर्जुन को, बोलते हैं कि प्रतिज्ञा लेता हूं मैं तुम्हें संसार का सबसे अच्छा धनुर्धर बना दूंगा, राइट? तो अभी एक प्रतिज्ञा ले ली उसने. अब फिर उनको सामने दिखता है एक एकलव्य करके बंदा जो कि उससे बहुत अच्छा धनुर्धर है, उससे थोड़ा अच्छा या बहुत पता नहीं, बट अच्छा धनुर्धर है. तो अब वो धर्म का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है जो कि द्रोणाचार्य के सामने है कि मैं अपने वचन पे रहूं या फिर एक ह्यूमैनिटेरियन एंगल लेकर के जो अच्छा है उसको सपोर्ट कर लूं कि भाई ठीक है चलो ये अच्छा है. बट द्रोणाचार्य शायद अपने वचन पे प्रतिबद्ध होना ज्यादा बेटर समझता है, इसलिए वो एकलव्य से फिर उसका अंगूठा मांग लेता. तो धर्म एसेंशियल.
एग्जैक्टली, मतलब अगर आप देखोगे सेंट्रली रामायण एंड महाभारत, दे आर अबाउट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ धर्म एंड देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ रिजॉल्विंग दैट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. तो a lot of people say that in Mahabharata the way of doing it is doing the due process of the law. So basically you try and make sure that the justice is done in the complete sense, regardless of what is the established text. एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो basically you can also bend the law to do the complete justice, and in Ramayana it is more like following what is already prescribed and what is already written. तो उसको बोलते हैं process as established by law. तो वो एक idea है कि that whatever is the law, even if the law is unjust, you are going to follow it. So there is that difference as well within the mythology, and there are a lot of nuances. So on that note, I would like to say that it always makes sense to read more about our people, about our past, our history, and to read it in the right perspective, keeping in mind that there are forces from outside who would always want to use the kind of weaknesses and the fissures within the society to find ways to make us fight among ourselves. and to demoralize us about our past. And it is important that we decolonize ourselves completely, our mind, and the kind of opinions we hold about India. And yeah, so
And
that
the
is what
only
our aim
solution to
is
do
over here.
that is to read more, is to understand
Hmm.
more, is to reflect more, right? And that is why we at Mimamsa would urge you and help you as well to reflect more, to think more, right? On this note, I think let's call it a wrap. Thank you.
And namaste from our side. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.